Hi, this is Katie Johnson. In this video, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different cards that I've made with this background stamp. Background stamps are large, and the most common way people use them is to fill in the background, but I want to show you some other ways that you can be a little creative with a large stamp like this. First, let's see the difference that a background stamp makes. This card does not have a background stamped in it, but here's the difference on what it looks like when you do stamp a background. Just kind of fills in that space real nicely behind the image. For this card, I stamped it in yellow to match the background of the card itself, and then I layered my cake focal point on top. The second card I'm going to show you is very similar, but I don't know how well the camera shows it. I'm going to pull it up in front of the camera for just a moment. This one, the background is heat embossed, which makes it really pop off the page. So I'm going to hold this up close, and hopefully with the camera you can see that that's just a flat, subtle image in the background on the yellow one. But on this one, you can see how the light catches that white, the white lines on the dark. It really intensifies the contrast on it. So that actually was the first point that I wanted to make in this video. Is that one of the ways that you can play around and get a different variety with your background stamps is to vary the contrast. This is Versamark on the green. Versamark is an ink that's just going to leave a watermark image. It's going to be tone on tone and very subtle. If you can compare the difference between these two, this is the Versamark. This is tone on tone. This is the same color ink as what was as the paper, so it's a matching ink color. This is also a green, but a slightly darker green. So again, you can see what kind of difference you can get by varying the contrast. And one more in that little series there. This was stamped in a completely contrasting color. And then again, those were all flat because they were just ink. But the other thing that you can do is to go back and heat emboss. So this one is heat embossed. I think the camera's picking up the light on there. Oh yeah, I think that looks good. This is heat embossed in the green of just Versamark. So green on the green. This one is the white on the green. Down here is the gold on the green. So you can get a lot of different contrast with them. And then just a few other samples, white on white, silver on the white. Look how pretty it is with various different colors. Anyway, it's something that you can play with. A second thing you can do with a background stamp is you don't have to fill in the whole card. So if you lay your piece of paper just on the edge of the stamp, you will catch only part of the front, and then you could use this, you know, put your sentiment over here or put a piece on the front to decorate it. And you can vary the look, if my fingers work here. You can vary the look by varying how far over you move the card. You can stamp it farther in or farther out. You can stamp from the long end or the short end, and you can create some really pretty cards this way. Just a very simple black and white. Another very simple black and white one. And of course you can lay it so that your card is at an angle also. And here's one more card made that way. Again, I hope the camera picks up just the real subtle background. This is a different background stamp if you were looking for the flowers in there. This was made with the crackle background stamp. When I showed you these cards, this was partial stamping on the piece of paper that's going to become the front of my card. You can also stamp on another sheet of paper and then just use that as your further embellishment on the card. So here's one that's white embossed on purple. Here's one that's gold embossed on brown. This third one was stamped and then cut out with a round die to make the card. So lots and lots of different ways to use these large background images. For this one, I stamped it and then I went back in with markers. This opens up a whole new realm when you think about coloring your background stamp. So this was colored with markers. Let me show you a few more that were colored with markers. On this card, I cut out a smaller piece and I layered a sentiment over the corner. This one is stamped on colored cardstock, and then I did heat emboss just to help define the lines for the coloring. But look how pretty that is when you actually use your markers and color on colored paper. Here are two more. Now with both of these, what I wanted to do was to highlight the flowers in the middle. This one was colored with markers. This one was colored just by bringing in a sponge and sponging some color. And you get quite a different look depending upon which tool you use to do the coloring. Another way to highlight just certain flowers is to actually physically cut them out of a different colored piece of paper. So I heat embossed in the gold on Mary Merlot, and then I also did the same thing on the saffron paper, and then just cut it out with the scissors and layered it on top. Here's a couple of more that are done in a similar way. This one I used 3 different colors of paper to layer on top of that background image. And for this one, I didn't even stamp a background. This one I just cut the flowers and layered them. There are lots of special techniques that you can do as well. This is an emboss resist with an ombre look, shading, ombre meaning shading from one shade to a lighter shade of the same color. You can use any shape to create a mask. For this one, I die cut a heart, laid it on top of my piece of paper, inked the stamp and brought Stampin' paper together. I didn't like this one because the edges of the flowers didn't line up with the edge of the heart, and so I felt like it looked a little unfinished in there. One way to get around this would be to sponge to define the shape. And let me show you what that means. All right, so if I have my mask lined up over the stamped image, then come back and apply some color in here. Now that unfinished edge has something that lets your eye follow the line of the heart and understand that it wasn't just some random marks on the page, that it actually represented a shape. For this one, I took a piece of scrap paper and tore it in a haphazard fashion, laid it down, inked up my stamp, and created that middle image, and then keeping the mask on, I went back and did that ombre sponging. And the last sample that I'm going to show you is using, again, a different background stamp. This is using the crackle, but I created a mask that was an oval, and I sponged to define the area, and then I came back and stamped that oval, or the crackle, on the inside. So I hope these cards have inspired you to go check out what background stamps you have, to spend a little time playing with these techniques. And Stampin' Up! Has a lot of different background stamps available in the catalog. I hope you're inspired to go check it out and see what's available. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful. Remember to subscribe if you have not already, so that you will get notifications when future videos are posted. And thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great day. Bye.